Hello besties, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori if you're new. Today we're going through my August wrap up. I don't typically do wrap ups on my channel because I vlog most of these books anyways, but I thought that this would be fun. Also, we're putting a little twist-a-rooney-dooney on things because why not? I have to summarize these books in 3 sentences or less because why say more word when few word do trick? So we're gonna go through all the books that I read in August. I will do summary in 3 sentences or less. I will give a couple thoughts about the book and then I'll give you my star rating. Also, if there are vlogs for any of these books, which there are many vlogs for all of these books, I will leave them linked down below. Okay, the first book that I read in August was Night of the Mannequins. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. The synopsis: boy finds mannequin in woods, people die. It's a horror novella. I didn't love the execution as much as I thought I was going to for this one, and my 3-star rating says that. Next up is Education and Malice. I gave this book 4 stars. I had so much fun with this one. Basically, girl has crush on girl in her poetry class. Teacher gets jealous because she wants girl for herself. They don't read a lot of poetry, but they do fondle each other in public. There's also vampires in there. Technically, that's 4 sentences. It got weird in the ways that I wanted it to get weird. The only thing that was holding me back from a 5-star with this one, it felt like so much happened to change these girls' lives, these girls who are in college, and like so much was happening. No feelings were dealt with other than their horniness for each other, and then we end the book and it's like, this is just their lives now, and there was like not really a conclusion, but also I don't know what the conclusion would have been, so like very happy with it overall. Read it, finished it, wanted to reread it right away. I gave this 5 stars, and that is The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. Zombie girl escapes her school and perceives the world. She not only survives but she thrives. The humans with her, not so much. I thought this was such a creative premise. It has like your classic zombie scenes, I would say, but the concept and the fact that you kind of get this POV from an infected person makes it so much better. I want to reread this book. I need to read the books that are actually on my September TBR this month, but I highly recommend this. If you liked The Last of Us, I think that you would like this book as well. Then we had Psalm for the Wild Built. I gave this book 4 stars. It is a like fantasy, cozy fantasy novella. Summary for this book: Monk has a midlife crisis, maybe like quarter life crisis, decides that the wilderness will refresh his Groundhog Day life. Then he befriends a robot and tells him what's what. I liked the ending of this book, but I wish that it didn't take us so long to get to the messaging. By messaging, I mean the ending gets not philosophical, but it gets really deep for this person, our main character, who's having this existential crisis and really questioning their life choices. And we get a really strong, beautiful message at the end, but it just felt like, even though this is a novella, it took so long to get there and we weren't really getting any little meaningful tidbits throughout the entire story. You only get it right at the very end, and so I just had wanted more of that incorporated throughout the whole story. I think it would have made it more impactful and a little bit more interesting for me as well. Then we have No Exit by Taylor Adams. I gave this 4 stars. Realistically, I think it would be like a 3.5. Summary for this book: girl drives through snowstorm and almost crashes. She finds a gas station for refuge. The gas station forsakes her. I just don't know that I'm a big fan of Taylor Adams. I also read The Last Word. I think that the thrillers get a little bit too tortury for me. It's absolutely high stakes, super suspenseful throughout. I think that Taylor Adams does a fantastic job of keeping a story extremely fast paced. There is no downtime. There is no lulls in action in No Exit and also in The Last Word. So I do appreciate that about the writing style. It absolutely keeps you gripped. It keeps you entertained all the way through. But I don't love the villains that he writes in his stories. I don't love the antagonists because They are so gross. Like, if you want characters that will skeeve you out, characters that will just give you goosebumps, creep-a-deeps, like you wouldn't want to touch this person with a 50-foot pole. Like, they are just that gross and grimy and creepy, and then take that to the next level because they like to hurt people. Next up, A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. Summary for this book: we have a journalist girl who is actually the goddess of spring, but she's trying to keep it on the DL. But she's also banging the god of the underworld, and her mom is really pissed about it. When I first read this series, this was a reread for me this month because I'm trying to reread the series. A Touch of Darkness. Hold please, I was holding up the incorrect book. I was like, wait, I did not annotate it. I listened to the audiobook. I reread A Touch of Ruin by Scarlett St. Clair. Same synopsis, that still applies. I ended up giving it 3 stars this time around, where I think the first time it was either a 4 or a 5 star. The first time I read these books, you could not tell me anything about Persephone as a main character. I still love her, and I do really, I love her romance with the Hades. I love it so much. I saw the complaints where people said she was kind of an annoying main character. I do get it. Do I still love it shamelessly? Absolutely. I could never stop loving these books, but I do think it wore on me a little bit. She just plays sometimes that like very naive main character, and sometimes that can just wear on you as a reader. So I did still really love this reread, but yes, I gave this 3 stars. Next up is The September House. I gave this 4 stars. Basically, a couple buys a house with a creepy basement. The woman chooses her ghost Delulu over living in reality. And in all honesty, who can really blame her? I don't. How she dealt with these ghosts just being insane, no idea. Absolutely no idea. The ending of this book really cinched it for me. I was fading and fading fast reading the first half. I was also listening to this one fully on audio. The audiobook is really good, by the way, but the first half, the pacing is so off. I think what wasn't working for me was that we were getting told everything and we weren't being shown anything, because our main character in the first half is recapping a lot of things that happened to her daughter that shows up. However, the second half, her and her daughter are actually living through the things that are going on, and that's when it worked for me. That's when it clicked. I was so happy that I did stick with it. I like to live in the story with the main character. I don't like to be told what happened after the fact, if that makes sense. But the end of this book gets so gory, so scary, so creepy. When we finally get to go into the basement, I was living my best life. I was captivated. I was hooked onto my headphones, holding them to my ears, like couldn't stop listening to it. So good. I would be very curious to read more from this author, because even though this first book that I've read from them had kind of a wobbly start, I could see this author's writing getting better and better and better with each book that they put out. My queen, A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. This was 4 stars. A girl with a sorceress mom gets dragged along during all of her mom's gold digging schemes, and gooses show up in the end that serve very little purpose. This was atmosphere. This was atmosphere, and it was very likable and also very not likable characters. And that contrast for me just did me in. This is slow. Like, you have to be ready for vibes and atmosphere going in, but if you're down for that, if you're down for a character-driven story, I do recommend it. I just think that T. Kingfisher does unique and interesting characters where they feel like real people so well. To be honest, I would say it's like a very low 4 star. I might even knock it down to a 3.5 because the pacing for this was definitely off for me. I did find that, especially in the second half, from like 50 to 75%, things really did get slow and dragged on a bit. But where we ended and the final conclusion and everything wraps up in such a nice little bow for a standalone fantasy, it's great. And if you're looking for something atmospheric for the fall, I think that this would be a good one to pick up. Now, my last 3 books for August were all 5 stars, and they were like hard 5 stars. Had so much fun with these. These are some of my top books of the year, like guaranteed. They're gonna be some of my top books of the year. We have The Wren in the Holly Library by K.A. Lind. This was our Who Did This To You book club pick for August, and this was the best time. The audiobook for this as well, incredible. So like I said, this was 5 stars. Basically, we have a thief girl who gets got. Then a hot monster man ropes her into doing heists that aren't only fun and high stakes, but they are also charged with sexual tension between these two. 0% expecting the ending of this book. It came out of left field for me because I was no thoughts head empty reading this book besides just screaming at the top of my lungs about the romance. I also really thoroughly enjoyed their like steamy, spicy moments. There's a lot of angst, there's a lot of tension that just keeps building and building and building. There's multiple heists and they're all done so well. It's exactly what I wanted from a heist book because I love a heist, but sometimes you just read it and it's so unsatisfactory. This did it well. The book that you're probably tired of hearing me talk about, Heartless by Elsie Silver, another hard 5-star like I mentioned. Summary for this book: the hottest, grumpy, single dad hires a nanny and fails to not hump her. And that synopsis doesn't do Willa any justice, but Willa is so funny. She's such a spitfire. She is a fiery redhead main character and she just pokes the bear. She just non-stop is poking the bear and Cade loves it. Cade absolutely loves it. He says that he hates it. He says that it gets on his nerves. He says that she's annoying. He loves her. Also, the spicy scenes in this book will have you drooling and jumping in the pool to cool off. And last but not least, one of my favorite, I mean, like I said, like there were quite a few 5 stars in August that like absolutely took the cake for me, but I think out of all of them, Paladin's Grace is my number 1, and this is also by T. Kingfisher. I finally read this book after having it on my TBR cart for like a year and a half. What was wrong with me? Couldn't tell you. We have a paladin who meets a girl named Grace. They run away from a murderer that's chopping off people's heads, and also he knits socks at one point and he smells like gingerbread. It is quirky, it is so funny. The audiobook for this as well, 10 out of 10. I was laughing out loud like a psychopath reading this book. Thankfully, I was never reading it in public at any point in time because people would have been staring at me like, what the heck is wrong with this girl? This and Swordheart have really solidified T. Kingfisher as one of my favorite authors of all time at this point. I really don't need to keep buying more books. Like, I have a full TBR cart that we are trying to read through from now to the end of the year. My business does not belong in buying any more books. Am I going to be purchasing the remaining 3 books in the Saints of Steel series? You bet your bottom dollar I am, because I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about the next book. Just the best, funniest, but also very, very angsty romances from T. Kingfisher. Even Swordheart for me wasn't, I loved Swordheart. That was also another hard 5-star that I read last year, I think. This was even more angsty, and the romance is really truly at the forefront the entire time. I was eating this up. Oh, you don't see the bite marks on the book? That's weird, because I was eating this up. So those are the, I think it's 11 books that I read in August. If you've read any of these, loved any of these, please let me know in the comments down below. I will catch you down there, and I will see you in my next one. Toodles!